He's 83 years old, widowed for 25 years, and this year alone, he got 2 marriage proposals. One woman flat out admitted she wanted his pension. The other was smoother, but he saw through her. She wanted the house. He's not George Clooney. He's not a billionaire. He's just a man who survived long enough to become a target. If you're anywhere near 60 with a paid-off home, a healthy retirement account, and a sense of quiet stability, brother, you are next on the list. Here's the dark truth nobody tells you about getting older with your finances intact. You become visible again. Not in the way you were at 25. This visibility is strategic. Women who wouldn't have given you a second glance in your 30s or 40s suddenly see you. Suddenly, you're stable, mature, and interesting. But these compliments mean only one thing: you have what they need. And they didn't build it for themselves. I'm not here to tell you every woman approaching you after 60 is running a scheme, but enough of them are that you need to know the playbook. Because the ones who are, they're professionals, and they are counting on one thing above all else: your loneliness. We're talking about the deep ache of being the provider, the fixer, the guy who disappeared into his life, and now nobody's looking. When a woman finally sees you, smiles, holds eye contact, it's like rain after a drought. You don't ask where the water came from, you just drink, and that's exactly what she's counting on. In this video, we're breaking down the cold, practical math behind this hidden danger. We'll cover the 5 concrete signs she's not here for you, but for what you built, and reveal the brutal endgame that few men see coming. She's not planning for divorce, she's planning for your funeral. Before we dive into the psychology and the specific warning signs, take 0.5 seconds to like this video. It helps us keep this message alive. And if you're new to Femiora Vision, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell right now. You deserve to be aware. You deserve to be protected. Let's get you armed with the truth. The harsh reality of late-stage masculinity is that survival with financial integrity transforms you from the provider into the prey. You've spent decades being the man who showed up, shut up, and handled it. You were the backbone, the silent engine of your family and career. Now, in the twilight of your working life, just as you should be enjoying the security you fought for, you become visible again. But this attention is not flattering. It is purely transactional. Think back to the core data point. Women retire with 40% less in their pension accounts than men. Forget the debates about why this gap exists: career breaks, wage differences, historical context. For the purpose of this conversation, only one thing matters. The gap is real, and it doesn't solve itself. When a woman stares down 20 or 30 years of retirement and her account balance screams, "Good luck," she has 2 choices: adapt or seek a solution. And often, that solution is a man whose account says, "Welcome aboard." This isn't necessarily evil. It's cold, practical math. The fundamental problem is that she is solving her equation using your numbers, and she is certainly not showing her work. The psychology of erasure and loneliness. To understand how this strategy works, you must first understand the state of the man being targeted. After years of service, perhaps following a painful divorce, the devastating loss of a spouse, or simply the slow decay of intimacy where your partner stopped seeing you, you disappeared. You are physically present, but the world has stopped looking. You walk through the grocery store and you're invisible. You sit at a bar and no one initiates conversation. At a family event, everyone asks how you are, but nobody genuinely listens to the reply. That is erasure, and erasure does something profound to a man's spirit. This is the psychological ground zero upon which the strategist builds her play. When someone finally does see you, when a woman actually holds eye contact, smiles, laughs at your joke, and, critically, touches your arm, it doesn't just feel good, it feels like a monumental validation. It is rain after a long, soul-withering drought. And when you are that thirsty, you don't ask about the quality or the source of the water, you just drink. This desperate relief is the precise vulnerability she is counting on. The women running this play don't think they are con artists. In their minds, they are being smart, adapting, and finding security. They may genuinely feel they deserve this funded future after their own lives were derailed by inadequate pay, raising children, or trusting a previous man who left them with nothing. Understanding her rationale is not an excuse to volunteer your life savings to fix her situation. The critical pivot here is that she is not coming to you because you are suddenly handsome, or because she finally sees the real you. She is coming to you because you represent a funded retirement, a secure asset base, and stability. You are not a partner, you are a pension with a pulse. The 3 reasons why you, specifically, are the target. Why target the man over 60 with assets rather than the younger guy with potential? The strategy relies on 3 specific vulnerabilities inherent to your generation and current situation. 1. Gratitude as a gateway. After years of being ignored, whether through a dead bedroom or the emptiness of a house you once shared, when a woman shows genuine interest, it validates your very existence. That feeling of finally is immensely powerful, and that immediate, overwhelming gratitude is the door she walks through. Your appreciation for her attention blinds you to her underlying motives. 2. Lack of suspicion. The 30-year-old with money is hyper-aware. He's been saturated with cautionary tales from modern media. He is guarded. You, however, came of age in an era where you were taught to believe people were genuine and honorable. You want to believe she likes you, not your portfolio. This inherent desire for authentic connection is not weakness, but it is the colossal blind spot she is banking on. 3. Proximity to the finish line. This is the most uncomfortable truth. She doesn't need 40 years with you. She needs 10, maybe 15, maybe less. She needs to outlive you. This is a cold-blooded component of the calculation. If she is younger than you by even a few years, statistically, she is planning for your funeral, not a joint 40th anniversary. This realization shifts the entire dynamic. The risk is not divorce court, where assets are divided and contested, but the complete and total transfer of assets upon death, secured through patience and subtle paperwork. One man shared a story that perfectly illustrates this acceleration. Just a few months into dating, a woman inquired about his will, then casually suggested adding herself and her adult children, whom he had met twice, to his estate documents. That is not commitment, it is positioning. The play disguises itself as future-oriented partnership when it is, in reality, a strategic move for asset acquisition. Now that we understand the why and the who, we must look at the specific, undeniable what to look for. Knowing the psychology behind the target isn't enough. Protection lies in identifying the tactics. The guys who got burned always say the same thing. I saw the signs, I just didn't want to believe them. We need to make sure that isn't you. These are not vague off vibes, but concrete observable behaviors that reveal her underlying motivation. Sign 1. The financial interview comes early. You are on date 2, perhaps having coffee, and the conversation is pleasant. Suddenly she pivots. She slips in questions that move beyond typical getting-to-know-you small talk. Are you retired? Do you own your home? By itself, this could be innocent, but watch what follows. Does she move on or does she dig? Oh, you own it outright? No mortgage? Wow, that's rare these days. A pension and Social Security? You really planned ahead. Do you have kids? Are they in the picture? She is not making small talk. She is filling out a spreadsheet in her head. She is conducting due diligence on your net worth before she knows your favorite movie. A relationship driven by genuine connection allows intimacy and financial transparency to grow organically over time. A strategic relationship seeks to confirm the asset base immediately. If a date feels less like romance and more like a loan application, trust that feeling. Sign 2. She brings nothing but shows up hungry. The second, and perhaps coldest sign requires you to ask a question most men avoid. What does she actually possess? We are not talking about emotional availability. That is easy to fake. We mean tangibles, savings, property, a funded retirement account, or any evidence of sustained financial planning. The common pattern is simple. She is 55 or 60, has no assets, no retirement plan, and perhaps significant vague debt. Yet she talks eloquently about partnership, building together, and taking care of each other. The painful truth is that you have already built your life for 40 years. What precisely is she bringing to the partnership besides her presence? Companionship is valuable, but it is not an asset worth risking your hard-earned security for. The darker side of this sign is the negative value she might bring. Hidden debt, credit cards maxed out, unmentioned car payments, or a massive financial hole from a previous divorce. One man discovered his partner waited until he was emotionally invested, right before they planned to move in, to confess to $200,000 in debt. She framed it as honesty, but the timing was strategic. She waited until he felt walking away meant losing something, reframing the debt as our challenge to tackle together. That is not honesty. It is a leveraged position. When you size her up, you must ask what she owes and watch her reaction. If she calls the question invasive, unromantic, or gets defensively angry, she has something to hide. Sign 3. Your people become the problem. This is the most insidious and painful sign as it targets your social circle and family. At first, the comments are subtle. Your children are so protective, don't you think? They don't give us enough space to be us. Then, it escalates. Maybe we should skip Thanksgiving this year. Why does your son need to know our business? Here is the key insight. Your adult children and longtime friends are your early warning system. They see a dynamic you cannot because you are inside it, blinded by gratitude. They are asking the questions she doesn't want asked. Therefore, she needs them gone, or at least marginalized, so their alarm bells cannot reach you. A woman with pure intentions welcomes your family and tolerates their protective skepticism. A woman who is running an angle requires isolation. She needs to separate you from the people who know you longest, as they are the witnesses to her play. Pay close attention to how she discusses or interacts with your adult children. Their skepticism is a gift, not an inconvenience. Sign 4. She's pushing for paper. In a healthy relationship developed over years, talking about marriage, joint accounts, or estate planning is normal and necessary. But if you have only been together for 8 months and she is already talking about what happens if something happens to you, that is not planning. That is positioning. The most critical asset is the deed to your home. Watch for casual suggestions. Wouldn't it be easier if I was on the title for tax purposes? I just want to feel like this is our home, you know? This request disguises a fundamental transfer of power. A prenup might protect your other assets in case of divorce, but the deed transfers the asset upon death. A chilling account from a legal forum involved a man who had a prenup, but let his partner's lawyer handle the deed paperwork. She ended up with the entire house when he died. The prenup designed for divorce meant nothing because the deed superseded it. Paper is power. Do not hand over 40 years of work because it feels romantic in the moment. Sign 5. Her timing is too perfect. When did she enter your life? Right after your wife passed away? Immediately following a finalized divorce? Right after a significant health scare? These are the moments of maximum vulnerability, when you are hurting, open, and desperately willing to believe someone genuinely cares. The strategists know this and watch for it. The church lady with a casserole 3 days after the funeral. The old friend who suddenly reconnected after hearing about your loss. The woman on the dating site who seems so understanding about your grief. You must ask yourself, where was she 6 months ago, a year ago, when you weren't vulnerable and looking for someone soft to land on? If she appeared at your lowest moment with open arms and no prior history, that is not fate, it is opportunity. These are the 5 signs. If you recognize even one, your skepticism needs to override your loneliness. Because knowing the signs leads to the next, much darker question. What is the actual endgame she is building toward? Most men worry about divorce. They protect themselves with prenups, keep accounts separate, and maintain legal distance. While these measures are essential, the truly sophisticated strategist is not thinking about divorce court. She is thinking about outliving you. This is where the math becomes morbidly practical. Women, on average, live approximately 5 years longer than men. If she is already 10 or 15 years your junior, she is not planning for a complicated legal battle. She is planning for your funeral. Think about the difference this calculation makes. If she divorces you, assets are contested, lawyers get involved, and your children will likely fight for their inheritance. It's messy, expensive, and a public fight. But if she is legally your spouse, or the right paperwork is in place, when you pass away, there is no fight, only transfer. The house you paid off in 1998, the retirement accounts you funded for 40 years, the life insurance policy, where her name now sits as the beneficiary, all transfer to her quietly and cleanly. She doesn't need to scheme her way through a courtroom. She simply needs to be the last one standing, holding the correct documents. The deceptive nature of the scheme. What makes this game so difficult to spot from the inside is that she can be genuinely pleasant and affectionate the whole time. You are looking for a monster, but monsters are easy to recognize. She might cook your dinner, genuinely enjoy your company, ask about your day, and be warm in bed. None of that changes the cold, actuarial math she ran before she ever uttered, "I love you." You are looking for a villain monologue, a moment where she slips up and reveals her plan. But that moment rarely comes. She is rubbing your shoulders, calling you her blessing, and simultaneously positioning herself for the payout. Those two states, genuine companionship and strategic positioning, are not mutually exclusive. This duality is what messes with your head. It doesn't feel like a scheme because there's no grand deception. There's just her math running silently in the background. In her mind, she has found a good one. She has been through hard times. She deserves a secure future, and she has finally earned her happy ending. The detail that your 40 years of labor is funding that happy ending is merely a footnote in her narrative. She might not even fully admit to herself the cynical nature of her actions. She is simply being practical and adapting. The power of paperwork and isolation. The story of the man who thought he was protected by a prenup is a stark warning. He was careful, but he let his partner convince him to add her name to the house deed for practical reasons. He assumed the prenup covered everything. He was wrong. The prenup governed divorce, the deed governed death. One signature, one line on a document, and 40 years of work was transferred because he confused legal protection with romantic trust. The endgame is not loud drama. It is quiet paperwork. It is patience, the strategic movement of legal titles, and eventually a box of tissues at your funeral, while she quietly calls the real estate agent. To achieve this, the strategist must first implement isolation, which is why sign 3, your people become the problem, is so vital. Your children are the financial heirs. If they are cut out of your life, they cannot monitor your decisions or challenge the will later. Your friends are the social observers. If they are kept at a distance, they cannot point out the behavioral shifts or the accelerating pace of the relationship. A schemer actively works to replace your existing support network with a new controlled environment. They might move you to a new town or push you to sell your family home, arguing it's a fresh start for us. In reality, the fresh start is isolation, ensuring that you have no one but her to trust and no one but her to lean on when the critical financial decisions are made. When you are cut off from your people, you are cut off from your protection. This awareness is not meant to turn you into a paranoid recluse. The goal is to move beyond the fear of being seen as paranoid or guarded and embrace clarity. You have worked too hard to let loneliness be the single largest liability in your retirement plan. The goal is not to become a paranoid hermit who flinches every time a woman smiles at him. That is just a different kind of prison. The goal is to stop confusing attention with affection, to know the difference between a woman who wants you and a woman who wants access to you. You can stay open to connection without being foolish. 1. Time is your best filter. A woman running a financial scheme has a strict timeline. She needs speed, commitment, cohabitation, paperwork, before you start asking too many questions or her true circumstances are revealed. A woman who truly loves you has nowhere to be. Slow it down, way down. No moving in together for at least a year. No financial entanglement for 2 full years. Absolutely no estate changes until you have seen how she handles a crisis, a serious disagreement, or a moment when she doesn't immediately get what she wants. Time reveals everything. The strategists cannot afford to wait. The genuine ones won't mind the pace. 2. Reinforce your early warning system. Remember that the strategist tries to isolate you. Sign 3. You must do the opposite. Keep your family close. Use them as a test. A genuine partner will make the effort to connect with your adult children, tolerating their protective skepticism because she knows it comes from a place of love. A schemer needs them gone. Listen to your children. They are not threatened by your happiness. They are observing a dynamic you cannot see because you are inside the relationship. If your daughter simply says, "Dad, she asks about money too much," listen. Your family is not the enemy. They are the most critical early warning system you possess. 3. Vet her the way she's vetting you. If she can ask about your house, your pension, and your net worth, you can and must ask about hers. What does her financial picture truly look like? Does she have her own savings or retirement accounts? Is she carrying debt she hasn't mentioned? A stable woman will not be offended by these questions. She will respect them because she understands financial responsibility. It is only the ones with something to hide who react defensively, call you unromantic, or say the question is invasive. You are not being cold, you are being smart. Do not apologize for protecting what you spent 40 years building. 4. Trust your gut and the math. You have lived long enough to have a functional internal radar. The problem is not that you cannot see the signs. It is that you have been successfully talked out of trusting yourself with phrases like, "You're being paranoid," or "Not every woman is like that." If something feels transactional, it probably is. If your gut says the speed or the narrative doesn't add up, do the math out loud. Understand the reality. Your peace is worth more than her peace. Your financial freedom, the quiet enjoyment of your assets, the freedom to make your own decisions, that is worth more than any companionship she is offering if it comes with hidden liabilities. Once you truly believe in the value of your own peace, you become untouchable. Not bitter, not guarded, but simply clear. And clarity is the most powerful protection a man can possess.